Assassin's Creed Shadows just released, and here's 10 things I really wish I knew before I started playing. Like how you can easily miss some really cool bits of backstory if you're ignoring the side content, and how not to waste those super rare upgrade materials. Ubisoft sponsored me to give you 12 tips and tricks so you can get the best start in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Firstly, here's a few reasons why you might not want to skip the side content. Shadows is set in a huge open world with so much to do that it can be overwhelming. You're going to find lots of mini games that are represented by these red icons on the map. Some of them are parkour courses which have epic loot at the end, and that's how I found this classic Assassin's Creed armor. Others require you to find all of the hidden scrolls in an area, and the easiest way to do this is to use the observation ability, which is basically eagle vision. All the white highlighted icons are objectives, so you can scan them and then just parkour over to them and collect the scrolls. Once you've found all three, you'll get some experience, and most importantly, you unlock a knowledge point. In Assassin's Creed Shadows, knowledge points level up your knowledge rank. And each rank is going to give you a new mastery point which you can spend on unlocking combat abilities and tools like smoke bombs. And don't be afraid to play around because you can reset your mastery points at any time in the game. I'd recommend starting out early with the smoke bomb because it lets you assassinate anybody caught within it who can't see you. But most importantly, Naoe has a meditation rhythm game called Kujikiri, like this one marked on the map. But once you arrive, you'll find a meditation spot which will unlock another knowledge point as a reward. It's basically a mini game where you've got to press the buttons in the right order with the right timing. Now, in addition to getting a knowledge point and more experience, it will also unlock a memory for Naoe, which you can actually play through, and it gives you additional context and backstory. So I'd highly recommend doing them just because otherwise you're missing out on cool story content. Next, we have tip number 2. If you like finding treasures and other undiscovered secrets in Assassin's Creed, make sure that you travel on the roads, because Ubisoft have now added random encounters where you come across an NPC that'll need your help. They might be getting robbed by bandits or even have a riddle that you need to give the right response to. They'll give you a valuable item or even information. This can be anything from the location of a secret legendary chest, a wandering merchant who's in the area, or sometimes you even get the choice to ask them to join your spy organization. Next, we have tip number 3. Here's 3 things you can interact with in the open world of AC Shadows that reward your curiosity. Firstly, you'll find shrines on the road where you have the option to pray. And if you do, you'll get a random buff that boosts your damage, adrenaline regeneration, armor piercing, or another useful effect. And you can actually repeatedly pray even at the same shrine until you get the buff you want. Secondly, some shrines you come across will have offering bowls, and if you use them, you'll get an experience boost. Thirdly, you'll notice there's a lot of animals in Assassin's Creed Shadows, and if you do get close enough to them, will you actually be able to pet them. Doing so then unlocks them as a pet in your hideout. You can place them and they'll just wander around the area, and yes, it is possible to have like 20 plus cats just wandering around your hideout. Tip number 4. When you are exploring the open world, I recommend that you stick to the roads for 2 reasons. Firstly, some of the more mountainous hills are full of thick, lush vegetation that makes it impossible to ride a horse through it, and the more mountainous regions have rocky slopes that you'll constantly slide down when you're trying to climb up them over and over again. While it is possible to walk between locations in a straight line, it is so much easier and faster to just gallop your horse on the road to get where you're going. That's probably why they also now have this optional navigation system. So now when you place a marker anywhere on the map, you can toggle a visual path on or off. And then just like a sat nav, it will be marked on the ground so you can see the fastest way to get there. Normally I like to play without it, but when you're going to a new location in a region you haven't been to before, it ended up saving me a lot of time. Next, we have tip number 5. The new stealth system in Assassin's Creed Shadows really makes you feel like an assassin. Firstly, it now works off light and shadow, so you'll be almost invisible in dark corners compared to brightly lit ones. You can also turn off or even break sources of light to stay in the darkness. And when you are completely in the shadow, you have this sort of grey indicator around your character so you know you're completely hidden. And as you can imagine, sneaking into castles at night is a lot easier than broad daylight. You can also use tools like the Tanto throwing knives to take out enemies from a distance while then assassinating another one, which which as you can see here, one guy reacts to, which distracts him from this guy that I can then assassinate, and it's super satisfying to pull stuff like this off. In fact, I think Assassin's Creed Shadows has kind of returned to its roots of that stealth parkour gameplay I really enjoyed from the original series. Both the throwing knives and the shurikens can be used to blow up explosive pots, to take out larger group of enemies or even just cause a distraction. You also have a bunch of tools like the smoke bombs, this ninja bell which just makes a noise and causes a distraction, or your grappling hook which can be used to scale up buildings easily, or even swing from one building to another. And if you're worried that they might set off the alarm in a stronghold, just cut it loose so they can't use it. The bell itself can also be used as a distraction when it falls to the ground and attracts nearby enemies. And obviously we are in Japan, so we can crawl under the floorboards. We also have Soji screens, and now you can get a perk that allows you to assassinate enemies through them. You have to look out for a shadow on the other side of the Soji screen, and then you can just take them out. Also, while you're crouching, hold down the right analog stick and you'll get X-ray vision, with the enemies being highlighted in red and the white things that you see are objects you can interact with. But this allows you to see enemies through walls, which is great for planning your stealth route. And let's not talk about the fact I played the game for 10 hours without knowing I could do this. I also can't get over how your blade actually cuts everything where you hit it. I'm aware that you can open a Soji screen by sliding it, but this is just how I open all doors now. Also, if you find the stealth system too easy or too hard, well, there is actually a custom difficulty setting for both combat and stealth. So you can make the NPCs super responsive with eagle vision. They'll spot you on rooftops and everything, or you can make them practically blind to your presence. Just like in the previous games, there's also an option to turn off or on instant assassinations, but the difficulty of the game is definitely designed not to have it on. Next, we have tip number 6. The game has all 4 seasons, so you've got winter, summer, and everything in between. And the vegetation and environment will actually change, making stealth harder in the winter because obviously there's less shrubs to hide in. But don't worry, you can still lure people towards you by whistling at them, so you can hide their body in the bush. You can also now crawl around on the floor, which makes you very hard to spot. But do take care, because in winter, some enemies will notice your footprints in the snow and follow them. Now we have tip number 7. Make sure that you're taking full advantage of the observation ability, or eagle vision. You can use it to find objectives, but also treasure and loot, which will be highlighted in gold for you to go and find. You'll find rations, tools, crafting materials, weapons, and armor sets, which range from common to legendary quality items. Also, all the items you're picking up will be unlocked as customization options, and this is really cool because now you can customize each component of your weapon. Like, you can have a serrated blade on your katana, you can change the colors and style of your grip to match whatever armor set you're wearing. There's also a ton of different sheath options, the guard on your katana as well, and that's just the katana. You also have the tanto, or the chain flail weapon, and obviously Yasuke has his bow, massive club, and katana to customize too. And the same goes for armor as well. You can use the transmog system once you've built the forge. Next, we have tip number 8. Assassin's Creed Shadows has a buildable hideout, and you can place everything from paths, trees, plants, the buildings, which also can be merged together. You can decorate the interior of them. You can place armor, make a dojo. You can recruit followers. You can even customize the followers' outfits. You can get the pets like I mentioned earlier, and much more. I won't go over the whole system in this video, but I highly recommend that once you do unlock the hideout, which is very early on in the main story, you should focus on building and upgrading the major buildings. As you're progressing through the main quest, you'll unlock the forge, the dojo, and so on. But you can also upgrade them, and the earlier you do that, the more beneficial it's going to be over the course of your playthrough. For example, you can buy these mini bases in the open world, which function as fast travel points across the map. Normally they'll cost you 800, but if you upgrade the relevant buildings, the cost will be reduced, so every single one you buy will be cheaper. And if you have one of these in each region, you'll then get daily contracts, which reward you with even more supplies that you need to upgrade your base and gear with. Also, the themed rooms have some amazing effects, like boosting the experience gain you get by 10% permanently for the rest of your playthrough, just by building this building, or making all the rations you use to heal yourself 20% more effective. So just generally making you more powerful powerful and the game easier to play. Another building you can build is the Forge, which brings me on to tip number 9. Here's some crafting tips that I wish I knew before I started playing Shadows. When you find legendary gear in Assassin's Creed Shadows, you'll notice that they have legendary effects on them. And once you unlock and upgrade the Forge at your hideout, you can engrave these effects onto other legendary items to create the ultimate combination that fits your playstyle. Also, all the gear that you find in the game has a level on the top right here, and that's based on the region you're in and the character level you are when you find it. The higher the level of the gear, the better the stats are going to be, but you can also increase the gear level at the Forge by upgrading it. But if it's a legendary item, it's going to require gold. Now, whether you're upgrading a item from level 1 to level 50 or level 1 to level 2, it's always going to require 1 gold if it's a legendary item. So I'd recommend waiting until later in the game to upgrade your legendary equipment from level 1 to whatever your character level is, so you don't waste gold, since it's such a rare and valuable resource. Now, if you want to get more gold, you can find it during the Animus missions and from traveling merchants. Next, we have tip number 10. In Assassin's Creed Shadows, you can play as both Yasuke or Naoe, but after you've played through the prologue, you'll start the game as Naoe, and it's actually quite a while later before you can even unlock Yasuke as a playable character. If you do want to unlock him early, I'd recommend focusing on the main quest line until you do. And once you have unlocked him, you'll be able to freely swap between both characters at any time from the main menu. All your progression and level ups are shared, apart from a few mini games that are separate between each character. And that said, if you want a full legendary set of armor for both Naoe and Yasuke, check out this next video guide on how to get that right at the start of the game. And don't forget, you can grab Assassin's Creed Shadows for yourself from the link below in the description.